Welcome to Back on the Stack, a cEDH channel. We are super excited to announce that Back on the Stack is now on Patreon. Please check us out to get exclusive perks. And for everyone who's been asking to get their hands on one of our custom playmats, subscribers to our Grand Slam tier will receive one for absolutely free. Check us out today. Now, let's get right into it and see what decks are being piloted tonight.
Hey everyone, my name's Mikey. I am one of the founders of Top Deck GG, and I am currently the head tournament organizer over at Top Deck GG. I've been really involved with the cEDH tournament scene over the past couple years, and really been helping it grow out, and it's great to see it expand and more people joining the format and having tons of huge events. Today I'm playing Rogside, which is one of my favorite decks in the format. I've been a big fan of Grixis for a long time, and this deck is just super powerful. You're able to utilize Rograk, which is a free commander, to have a really explosive plays by capitalizing on crazy mana production through effects such as Springleaf Drum, Mox Amber, Culling the Weak, etc. And you're able to use all this spell to cast, use all these mana to cast super powerful spells such as Necropotence, Wheels, Ad Nauseam, any other payoff in the deck that's usually able to just win on the spot or win the turn after a setup. So this fan that I'm keeping in first seed is just a slam dunk. It has mana to cast my Necropotence. I already have Final Fortune, so I can Necro for, say, 35 cards, get them all in my hand, and then cast Final Fortune in my end step to get an extra turn to utilize all the cards that I have. In the world where Necropotence gets countered, I have Burgi, which I can cast on the Horn side and start to get some value through that. And overall, just Dockside is super powerful card, so I'm hoping in first seat I can hold on to this Dockside, people drop some rocks, and then I'm able to have it a really explosive turn too.
Tonight I'm piloting Borborygmos Fblthp. I know at first glance the deck doesn't look very competitive, however, it's a mid-range list looking to neoform the commander into Niv Mizzet. Once Niv is on the field, I can win through a Curiosity or Keen Sense effect, although I'm still running a classic Breach line in here too. I kept my opening hand hoping to disrupt my opponents while slowly building my board state.
Hey everybody, it's Eli, and today I'm piloting Korvold, Faker's King. This is a turbo Jund deck that looks to loop Dockside or fire off a quick Ad Nauseam in order to piece together a win.
For game 1, I had to mull down to 6.
I found a land and a Jeweled Lotus, so if I can top deck another land, I'll be able to get a turn 2 Korvold and start accruing some value.
Howdy, my name is Levi, and today I'm playing Omnath Locust of Creation. This is a Jeskai deck with green. I hope to be doing Jeskai things while also being able to utilize Dockside and Emil to infinitely draw my deck. This opening hand I got some mana and some creature tutors to get some early game value or to potentially find a win con.
With introductions out of the way, Mikey will kick us off. He draws and plays Scalding Tarn for turn. He casts Lotus Petal. He casts Paradise Mantle. He pays a life, sacks Scalding Tarn, and fetches up Badlands to the battlefield. He casts his commander, Rograk. He equips the Paradise Mantle to Roger and passes the turn. J-Rock draws and plays Stomping Grounds for turn, tapped. He casts Mox Amber. He passes. Eli draws and plays Exotic Orchard for turn. He casts Jeweled Lotus. He passes the turn. Levi draws and plays Misty Rainforest for turn. He pays a life, sacks it, and fetches up Savannah to the battlefield. He passes the turn. Mikey draws and immediately casts Necropotence. He pays 10 life into Necro and exiles the top 10 cards of his library. He moves to his end step and puts the exiled cards into hand. He discards to hand size, which go into exile due to Necro, and then passes the turn. J-Rock draws and plays Wooded Foothills for turn. He pays a life, sacks it, and fetches up Volcanic Island to the battlefield. He moves to end step, and in response, Eli casts Vampiric Tutor. It resolves and he tutors a card to the top of his library and loses 2 life. Then, the turn moves to Eli. Eli draws and plays Command Tower as land for turn. He casts Lion's Eye Diamond. He casts his commander, Korvold, Faker's King. It ETBs and he sacrifices LED. Korvold triggers and he adds a 1/1 counter and draws a card. Eli moves to his end step and in response, Levi casts Worldly Tutor. It resolves and he tutors Archivist of Ogma to the top of his library. The turn moves to Levi. Levi draws and casts Chrome Mox. It ETBs and he exiles Invasion of Ikoria. Levi moves to his end step and in response, Eli casts Deadly Rollick, targeting Rograk. It resolves and Mikey moves it back to the command zone. The turn then moves to Mikey. Mikey skips his draw step due to Necro. He plays Wooded Foothills for turn. He pays a life, sacks it, and attempts to fetch, but in response, Levi flashes in Archivist of Ogma. Then Mikey tutors Blood Crypt to the battlefield, shocking it in. Archivist triggers and Levi gains a life and draws a card. Mikey then pays 20 life into Necro and exiles the top 20 cards of his library. He moves to his end step and puts the Necro cards into hand. Still in his end step, he casts Final Fortune. In response, J-Rock casts Force of Negation for its alternate casting cost, pitching a Chain of Vapor. In response to that, Mikey casts Force of Will, exiling Jataxian Probe. Final Fortune then resolves. Mikey sculpts a hand of 7 and passes the turn to himself. Mikey skips his draw step again due to Necro. He plays Marsh Flats for turn. He casts Mana Crypt. He pays a life, sacks Marsh Flats, and fetches up Underground Sea to the battlefield. Archivist triggers and Levi gains a life and draws a card. Mikey exiles Simian Spirit Guide from his hand to add 1 red mana to his pool. He casts LED. He casts Dark Ritual, adding 3 black to his pool. He casts Demonic Tutor. It resolves and he tutors a card to hand. Archivist triggers and Levi gains a life and draws a card. Mikey casts Underworld Breach. He casts Brain Freeze with all 5 copies targeting himself. He sacrifices LED and adds 3 blue to his mana pool. He escapes Brain Freeze with all copies targeting himself. He escapes Brain Freeze again and now mills his entire deck. He escapes LED. He sacks it and adds 3 black to his pool. He casts Praetor's Grasp, targeting J-Rock. He escapes LED again and then sacks it again to add 3 blue to his pool. He then casts J-Rock's Thassa's Oracle. With his devotion to blue being greater than the cards remaining in his library, Mikey wins the game. Mikey was able to demonstrate the raw speed of Rograk in that game, so we decided to re-randomize seed order, shuffle up, and try again. In Game 2, I kept this hand with the intention of getting off an early game wheel. I probably should have mulled more aggressively, but let's just see how it plays out.
For Game 2, I mulled down to 6, found an Underworld Breach, 2 lands, and a Vampiric Tutor, hoping to turn 1 tutor for a Dockside, and then start storming from there.
So this hand that I'm keeping in our second game, I'm in seed 3. This hand looks a little bit weird, but I actually think this has a lot of potential. For one, with the Gemstone Caverns and Ancient Tomb, I'm able to get out a turn 1 Ristic. I could also potentially, depending on the top of my deck, I could get out Beseech the Mirror and just go straight to Necro and try to Necro for a lot, or Necro for about 10, Sculpt down, and then next turn try to have a really explosive play. But I just like how this has action on 1 and action on 2, and depending on what the top of my deck has, this has a lot of mana in it. So basically any other payoff or any other tutor, I'm really able to start going with this, and I'm always pretty hard-pressed to ship away a hand that's a turn 1 Ristic study.
Howdy, Levi again, and this was a rough mulligan. Had to go down to 4, and I really only kept mana. So I hope I draw into something.
With opening hands decided, J-Rock will kick us off. But first, Mikey has a pregame action and puts Gemstone Caverns into play, exiling Scalding Tarn. J-Rock draws and plays Scalding Tarn for turn. He pays a life, sacks it, and fetches up Volcanic Island to the battlefield. He passes the turn. Eli draws and plays Bloodstained Mire for turn. He pays a life, sacks it, and fetches up Badlands to the battlefield. He also passes. Mikey draws and plays Ancient Tomb for turn. He casts his commander, Rograk. He casts Ristic Study. In response, Eli casts Vampiric Tutor. In response to that, J-Rock casts Mental Misstep. It resolves and counters Vamp Tutor. Then, Ristic Study resolves. Mikey moves through phases and passes. Levi draws and plays City of Brass for turn. He casts Mox Diamond. Ristic triggers and he pays. Mox Diamond ETBs and he discards Windswept Heath. He passes the turn. J-Rock draws and shocks in Steam Vents for turn. He casts Fellwar Stone. Ristic triggers and Mikey draws. J-Rock passes the turn. Eli draws and plays Ancient Tomb for turn. He casts Lion's Eye Diamond. Ristic triggers and he pays. He casts Red Elemental Blast, targeting Ristic Study. Ristic triggers and he pays again. It resolves and Ristic is destroyed. Eli then passes the turn. Mikey draws and plays Polluted Delta for turn. He pays a life, sacks it, fetches up a Badlands to the battlefield. He casts Chrome Mox. It ETBs and he imprints Mnemonic Betrayal. He casts Beseech the Mirror, bargaining it by sacrificing his Chrome Mox. He tutors Necropotence into exile. He immediately casts the Necro from exile without paying its mana cost through Beseech. He pays 10 life into Necro and exiles the top 10 cards from his library. He moves to his end step and puts the Necro cards to hand. He shapes a hand of 7 and passes the turn. Levi draws and plays Talisman of Curiosity. He simply passes. J-Rock draws and plays Taiga for turn. He casts Wheel of Fortune. It resolves, everyone discards their hand and draws a fresh 7. J-Rock exiles Simian Spirit Guide from his hand and adds 1 red to his pool. He dashes in Ragavan. He moves to combat and swings the monkey at Mikey. Ragavan triggers and J-Rock creates a treasure token and Mikey exiles Dark Ritual from the top of his library. J-Rock moves to his end step, returning Ragavan to hand, and passes the turn. Eli draws and plays Mana Confluence for turn. He casts Rite of Flame, adding 2 red to his pool. He casts Unearth, targeting Imperial Recruiter in his graveyard. It resolves and Imp Recruiter is returned to the battlefield. It ETBs and Eli tutors Dockside Extortionist to hand. He casts Dockside. It ETBs and he creates 5 treasure tokens. He casts his commander, Korvold. It ETBs and he sacrifices Dockside. He sacks a treasure to add a green, triggering Korvold, adding a counter and drawing a card. He then casts Veil of Summer. He sacks another treasure, adding a black, triggering Korvold. He then casts Reign of Filth. He sacks all 3 of his lands, adding 3 black mana and triggering Korvold 3 times. He casts Culling the Weak, sacrificing Imp Recruiter as an additional cost, triggering Korvold. He adds 4 more black to his mana pool. He casts Imperial Seal. He tutors a card to the top of his library and loses 2 life. He sacrifices LED, discarding his hand, adding 3 red, and triggering Korvold. He casts Ad Nauseam. It resolves and he reveals Overgrown Tomb, Mox Diamond, Wishclaw Talisman, the One Ring, Entomb, Cloudstone Curio, Dance of the Dead, Pyroblast, Necromancy, Mana Crypt, Lotus Petal, Gamble, Praetor's Grasp, Invasion of Ikoria, Nature's Claim, Verdant Catacombs, Ruthless Technomancer, Marsh Flats, Bayou, and Mana Vault, deciding to stop there. He casts Lotus Petal. He casts Mana Crypt. He casts Mox Diamond. It ETBs and he discards Overgrown Tomb. He casts Mana Vault. He casts Cloudstone Curio. He casts Gamble. He tutors a card into hand and randomly discards Bayou. He casts Dance of the Dead, targeting Dockside. Dockside ETBs and he creates 5 treasure tokens. He casts Llanowar Elves. Cloudstone triggers and he bounces Dockside back to hand. He recasts Dockside, triggering Cloudstone again. Eli then presents a loop of creating infinite treasure tokens through Cloudstone Curio, Dockside, and Llanowar Elves. He then sacrifices treasures, triggering Korvold, drawing every card in his deck except 1. Eli thought Mikey's win in Game 1 was so cool that he wanted to try it for himself. He casts Praetor's Grasp, targeting J-Rock. J-Rock once again provides the win con for an opponent as he exiles his Thassa's Oracle. Eli casts the Thassa's Oracle, and with his devotion to blue greater than the cards remaining in his library, Eli wins the game. Those were 2 very fast games, both winning using J-Rock's Thassa's Oracle. Mikey showed us why Rogsai is a top meta deck that's just known for going burr. In Game 2, Eli was able to use Dockside loops to draw his deck through his commander, a classic win con in Korvold. Thanks so much to our guest this episode, Mikey, for taking time to play a little cEDH with the group. Please check out the deck links listed below, and we will see you back on the stack.